but in verses 11 through to 14.
Bear with me. Small print. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch, inside and out.
Good. So this talk's entitled Angels and Demons. And this was where some of the angels became demons. We had a situation on the earth that some of the angels in heaven saw women were pretty good looking, so they thought that they would have a bit of that. So they married women on the earth and produced hybrid offspring. Things got so bad, as George just read, the earth was so full of violence with these mighty people, because the hybrids between angels and people they must have been really strong when you think about it. So God needed to bring that to an end, and mankind had gone wrong, some of the angels had gone wrong, and God needed to cleanse the earth, so he brought about the flood. The flood came. What happened to the angels that had the fallen angels? Well, they could dematerialize again, and they went back into the spirit realm, but the hybrid offspring, they couldn't. They actually were drowned at the flood. That was the beginning of it all. These fallen angels were now in the spirit realm, but they were bad ones. They had done wrong, and they knew it, but they then set to work to put empathy between God, God's people, and made it as difficult as they possibly could for humans to function to worship God. Genesis 7 and verse 1, Joe, please.
The Lord then said to Noah, go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation.
And verses 21 to 23.
Every living thing that moved on the earth perished. Birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out. Men and animals, and the creatures that move along the ground, and the birds of the air were wiped from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark.
So the situation was really, really dire. God cleansed the earth, but he took this righteous man, his wife, the righteous man's wife, 3 sons and their wives, and he took them into the ark. And he brought into the ark also 7 of each of the clean animal kinds and 2 each of the others, to preserve animals. A lot of animals didn't make it into the ark, and they were just drowned anyway. This was the explanation of what had happened in the very, very beginning. At the very beginning of Genesis, when we see in Genesis 3, verses 4 and 5. Joe, please.
You will not surely die, the serpent said to the woman. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.
Very good. So, God made a provision to save the human race. There were only those righteous people left, so he started again. What a situation to have found the earth in. all of this destruction because man had fallen away. Some of the angels had fallen away. Does it ring similarities with today and some of the things that are happening on the earth today? It's interesting that that garden would have been a really, really good place to live in, but then something happened to that even. Genesis 3:15, Joe, please.
And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel.
Very good. So that seed of the woman, the seed of Adam and Eve, Jesus, was then, right away back then, preordained to step in and to bruise the serpent in the head. But it says also that during times the serpent would be bruising, not a lethal blow, but being a real nuisance in the earth, trying to stop people from worshipping God. And these other fallen angels joined in with them as well. Psalm 106, Joe, please, 36 through 38.
They worshipped their idols, which became a snare to them. They sacrificed their sons and their daughters to demons. They shed innocent blood, the blood of their sons and daughters, whom they sacrificed to the idols of Canaan, and the land was desecrated by their blood.
So some things never change. Again, we've got a situation of mankind going against God, and they're actually even worshipping some of these demons. Satan worship. Again, we find that today, don't we? Mark 5, verses 2 through 20, Joe, please. Joe's working really hard this morning.
When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him any more, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he took the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to do it. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Swear to God that you won't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the evil spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man, and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your family, Tell them how much the Lord has done for you, and how he has had mercy on you. So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed.
And we're amazed as well, aren't we, when you think, how strong is a pig? There's a saying, isn't there, you couldn't stop a pig in the passage. Vicky, how 2,000 of them together, can you imagine trying to stop them? That strength that must have been there. And they all go over the end of a cliff. Just think about chains that this fella that was demon-possessed, because he was demon-possessed not just by one, a number of them, and he's breaking chains. Absolutely amazing. But the big thing here is Jesus is stronger. Jesus gets rid of all of those spirits and the man's cleansed. Genesis 19:1.
The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. "My lords," he said, "you can wash your feet and spend the night, and then go on your way early in the morning." "No," they answered, "we will spend the night in the square." Did not that they go with him and enter his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate.
Good. So here's Lot, gets visited by two angels. Have you ever had a visit from an angel? Be interesting, wouldn't it? They said that they wanted to sleep outside, but you've got a load of people that are after them trying to do horrible things to them. And Lot brings them inside. Have you ever entertained an angel? May you have? Interesting point. Genesis 19:15.
I haven't got that on my list.
When I got it on the list.
Genesis 19.
Genesis 19:1-3.
Just read it.
Oh, sorry, Genesis 19:15. Sorry.
Bear with me because I haven't got it on my list.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got it here.
With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished."
So they ushered the family out of the city. This is the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Of course, where Lot's wife turned round, maybe feeling a little bit hurt that she was leaving things behind, leaving possessions behind or whatever, and she's turned into a pillar of, depends on the translation, salt in a lot of places. It's interesting that the angels seem to have the power to be able to see what's going to happen next. The power given by God. Mark 16 verses 5-7. Joe, please.
As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe, sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. "Don't be afraid," he said. "You are looking for Jesus the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you."
Very good. So there's a couple of instances of angels being used. One in the case of Lot to help his family to get out of the city. And here's an angel giving a message about Jesus being resurrected from the dead. Michelangelo has had a major painting that's in the Vatican showing that angel look look like the way that Michelangelo depicted it, but it shows that the angel's there sitting in the tomb, letting them know that Jesus had gone, and he would meet up with them later. I threw out in our on a WhatsApp group just to see if anyone had had any experiences with angels or even experiences with demons. Did anyone think of anything that they could have come up with that may have happened to them?
I was in a meeting once when, years ago this was, when some people came in that were possessed and they had prayer and fasting, praying for them, and they were delivered. It was actually a very scary experience. I was only about 18 or 19 at the time.
Yeah.
And it was quite scary for me to actually be there in the room, but they were delivered of these spirits and went on to, as far as I understand, because they didn't live around here, as far as I understood, these people went on to follow the Lord. One became a missionary and went to Greenland, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
But at the time it was what became the Zetland Church. It was the Pentecostal Church, and it was along Castle Hill at the time, and there wasn't many of us there, but we prayed and they were delivered. But as I say, I personally, at that time, there was quite a few of us who were scared at the time of seeing what was happening, but, you know.
So how did they manifest themselves?
Well, they spoke in strange, they actually spoke, but it wasn't their normal voice.
Yeah.
Said what they were, named what they were, and this particular chap that we knew, who sort of lives in the Midlands, he was sort of one that, you know, and then one lady said, by midnight they'll be delivered, and he was still there at midnight, and they were.
Yeah.
But there was a smell of sulphur, believe
Yeah.
it or not, in the room
Yeah.
as they were being delivered.
Yeah.
It was really strange, but personally I wouldn't want to go through it again.
No.
You know, but and apparently, I won't go into the details, but they spoke about things, this is the people that said, that had happened to them when they were children and babies.
Right.
They didn't know had happened to them,
Yeah.
and then they were delivered.
Yeah. And that's lived with you right the way through.
Yes, yeah, I still remember it, but as I say, you know, we were told not to be frightened.
Yeah.
But it was very, to me, quite
Yeah.
a scary thing.
But they were delivered in the
They
end.
were delivered in the end.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. It's interesting we don't talk about these things very much, do we? I mean, it's something that is kind of, you know, pushed up. We keep it quiet because we don't want people to think that. But it's real. It's real. Sometimes you may think that it's difficult seeing an angel, seeing a demon, but I think that example just shows it. Acts 16, verses 16 through 18, Joe.
Didn't have it on my list.
Isn't it on your list either?
No.
Did somebody find that one? Acts 16 through 18. I'm just keeping you on your toes, Joe. Acts 16 through 18.
Once when we were going to the place of prayer, we were met by a female slave who had a spirit by which she predicted the future. She earned a great deal of money from her for her owners by fortune telling. She followed Paul and the rest of us shouting, "These men are the servants of the Most High God who are telling you the way to be saved." And 18.
Amen.
She kept. Paul became so annoyed that he turned around and said to the spirit, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to come out of her." At that moment, the spirit left her.
It's interesting, isn't it? He has a spirit saying that they were from God. You would think that it would be the opposite. They would be saying horrible things about them, but Satan and the demons can sometimes turn themselves into an angel of light to get themselves seemingly on the right side. It's all part of the game, or part of the way that they play things. My dad was in the army. I must admit that I was about 18 before I realised there were other people fighting for England. I thought it was just him. I found out that it was more than just him because I met somebody else that was in it. I said he would have known my dad because he was in that. But he tells a story. I was talking to him about a similar subject, and he tells a story about he was in the middle of a battlefield, and he was a dispatch rider, and he was asked to take a message back to headquarters. And as he was coming round out of that particular part, this chap stopped him and said, "Don't go that way, it's dangerous." He said, "Go the other way." So he got back on his motorbike and went all the way around about 30 miles. And when he got to where he should have been, the body of this man was being dragged out, and he couldn't possibly made it. So, demons can transform themselves into all sorts of things, and that's something to be careful of. But always remember that Jesus, our God, is actually stronger than any of them. And sometimes it's good just to remember that, and just to say God's name. It helps. I had a situation much the same as what you were talking about in Richmond about 4 or 5 years ago. There were a few of us in a party, and somebody, a Christian, started behaving really erratically, and it turned out that they were possessed by a number of demons. And these demons were talking, there were men's voices, and there were men's voices coming out of that. I was quite amazed by the whole thing. And we prayed, and it took a long, long time, but there were a lot of them in there. And at one stage, this thing from in there just said, "You'll not get us all out. There are lots of us in here." But we did. It took a long time. It was early hours of the morning. But that was absolutely frightening. It really is. But God was in control, and I think that was manifested there because there were a lot of Christians in the room, and that's the way it was dealt with. When I lived down in Dalton, and I got a phone call from the pastor of the church that I went to, and he said, "I'm unsure what to do. We've got this chap that's turned up, and he's got nothing with him. He's just in a t-shirt. It was in the middle of winter." And I said, "Well, what's up with him?" He said, he just wants a bed for the night. So I said, "Oh, well." I said, "Okay." He said, "He's got no money, he's got no food." So we fed him, and it was really strange. He left in the morning. I gave him a jumper and stuff, and off he went. And when I looked down the road, didn't see him. He obviously went a different way than where I thought. That was probably just a man on his having bad luck. But what if it was an angel? I said to the pastor, he said, "It could be somebody that's just taking us for a ride." I said, "Yeah, but can you imagine if they're taking us on, they're taking God on?" So it was either one or the other. And I'm not saying that it was which one it was, but it seemed very, very strange that in the middle of the snow somebody should turn up in a t-shirt, no money and nothing. Like to think that it was an angel. Thing to remember, though, of everything else, and the big thing to remember, is that we've got a God that's stronger than these demons. He's proved it over and over again. We live in a day that's very perilous. We've got nations that are being driven by demonic influences. When Jesus was in the wilderness and the devil tempted him, the devil said to him, "If you just bow down and worship me, I'll give you all the nations of the earth." Jesus didn't say, "They're not yours to give," because he knew the nations are in the hand of Satan. But we live for a time when that's going to be put to rights. That God's going to take over, and he's going to take over every realm in every way. So praise God. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. Thanks, Terry. When Terry mentioned about the Spirit telling the truth, the one in Acts there, it just rung a bell. Sometimes where we hear about people going and seeing these what they call them. Anyway, it's clairvoyance, that's the word I was looking for, thank you. Yeah, clairvoyance and that. And people get so enamoured by them, what they tell them, and they are speaking the truth. Some do it, you know, by a means of elimination and, you know, the way they talk. But some actually know, and some are getting messages, and they are telling the truth. And the more they tell the truth, the more they keep the victim, should I say, the one who's hopefully receiving from the loved one, because they believe in that becomes centre in their life. And what I'm saying is you can understand people being like that, usually because of bereavement and things like that. And, you know, it's a time when we should come and get around them. And the other thing, what Terry said about the old person in need, I was looking at a YouTube channel or something like that a few weeks back, and this pastor of a church, he was a new pastor, not everybody knew him, got dressed up and sat on the church steps on the morning and sat there, and then went in and sat at the front, was asked to sit at the back, and then when it came to introduce the new pastor, he went from the back to the front, you know, and they just disregarded it because of the way it was dressed, probably the way he spoke and everything like that. The Bible tells us to practice hospitality, for in so doing you may entertain angels. And it's a good thing to do. I mean, we've always done that. When we lived down there, people used to come and knock for water. We had somebody had an injury on a bike, fell off the bike, down about 12-foot bank. She was in a right state, and the party she was with. And Anne went into full nursing mode and looked after the lady, didn't you? And we took her back round. But it's not, I'm not saying that for us, but what I'm saying is, it's a way of practicing hospitality. And sometimes these things are sprung on us, almost as a surprise, and we don't fully realise or grasp the situation. But if we're looking through the eyes of Jesus, we'll see and know. Yes, people will sort of take the mick or have a lens. Do everybody know what that means, have a lens? It means just keep going on and on and on. A bit like our children, actually. But, you know, and you might say, oh, well, they're only doing it for that or that or that. But, you know, it's best not to be judgmental in those situations. It's best just to say, well, and if they are having a lens, well, then it's with them. They'll remember an act of kindness and think, well, I was taking the mick there, but they treated me kindly. You know, so there's loads of things that can come out of what Terry said this morning. We need to have our eyes open and look through the eyes of Jesus. Also, be careful these days, especially if you're old, or younger, or living by yourself, you know, whatever it